All right. Do you know the definition of insurrection?
Not really, no. No. I mean, you kind of like hear it. You sort of know it in context, but no, not really.
January 6th, do you feel it was an insurrection? Your guy loses, so you put up your people to make sure that the guy that beat you doesn't take power, and you use force, and you use, get in the way of the legislature from transferring power.
So by calling it an insurrection, are we saying that is to assume that these rioters and these people were led there on purpose, that somebody purposely made them go and cause chaos because they didn't like an outcome?
All right, so let's change it. Let's say that you took over a board position at the local library down here. Mm-hmm. You won the vote. They voted you in, and people aren't happy. So they're going to try to get in the way of, now you're going to be sworn in. So they try to get in the way of the process from going forward for your swearing in. So they disrupt the swearing in ceremony. They take hostage the person. They steal the Bible. They get in the way for you taking the board position at the local library. That would be an insurrection.
Yeah. I just don't get... You're disrupting it then. Like, it can be done the next day, the following week. That's what I don't get, is like when people say, well, this was put on to make it so that they don't transfer power. Did they think they were stopping it for good? That, who was incoming president was no longer going to be incoming president because of this show?
If the people that were against your local library board position wanted to protest and it was going to happen regardless of what I said, then that was just me protesting that I'm not happy that you're going to get that board seat.
Yeah.
If I try to stop you from taking the board seat and using illegal actions in order to stop you from having that, stealing the Bible, taking someone hostage, cutting the power, making it so that then we've hit into the point where I'm trying to stop the transfer of power to you by using illegal means, right?
Yeah.
So my intention does matter. So if I held a sign, right, I'm against you taking it. Did I take any illegal means so that you couldn't take the president or the board seat? Then it's not an insurrection.
Right.
But if I broke the law to delay or deny you from taking your board seat, then that would be insurrection.
Right.
Right. So now let's go to some of the more subtle insurrection. These are like insurrection light. So if Joe Biden, who's like the brain dead dipshit that is our current president, if he would then, Trump is going to take office on the 20th. And if he were to get in the way or make things harder. So for instance, let's just say President Trump can come in and make appointments. But Biden decides to make appointments during his term that go beyond Trump's term, so he can't make appointments. He's denying Trump from being able to do his duty as the president. Would that be insurrection? Denying the person being able to take a power that should be his and then signing something or enacting something that goes beyond that person's term. Insurrection?
Yeah.
Okay. So if Trump is going to come in and build a wall, and before Trump takes office, you sell off all the wall materials and make it illegal to build walls, would that be insurrection?
I mean, that's purposely trying to stop someone.
He's going to build a wall, you know it. And so the materials are sitting there. You're not building the wall, but you're going to sell the wall to make it a little bit harder for Trump to build the wall by selling the materials. If Trump was good, and I know your answer to it, so you don't have to answer. If you know Trump is going to come in and fire all of the FBI agents, so you hurry up and sign a contract that goes beyond 2030, knowing that he's going to fire all the FBI agents as part of what he's going to do, is that insurrection?
God, I feel like it is.
If you disable the incoming administration in any way, stuff that you wouldn't have done just in the pursuit of your own administration, you just did it to make the next administration's life a little bit harder. Is that not insurrection?
I would think, yeah.
If I took all of the computers and I threw them all out the window so the incoming administration would have no computers, would that be insurrection?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is, like you said, light. These are things, all right, that was dumb. Now we got to go get computers, and we will, and we'll fix it. You know, okay, we'll buy more materials. That you just inconvenienced us. But, yes, that was an inconvenience in an attempt to make it so that you can't.
If let's just say the presidential term was one day and you threw the computers out knowing that they wouldn't have computers on the only day that they had to serve office, would it be insurrection because you took away?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So wasting one day of a presidential term or a week of one presidential term, that's why we're calling it light, because they're still going to have time to come back from that. But let's just say you don't do that, and they hit the ground running from day one, you've stolen time from an administration where they can't be president. So if I delayed the Biden administration, I didn't acknowledge the fact that Biden was president, and I pushed it through the legislature to see whatever, and I robbed him of a month worth of his candidacy. Isn't that the same thing? Or not his candidacy, but his presidency. Wouldn't that be the same thing?
You would think.
You robbed him of a year or a month of what otherwise would be his presidential term.
Yeah. I feel like in that case, then, we'd be fighting about insurrections all the time.
It's important that it came up because it's a word that didn't, before this last presidential cycle, we didn't really talk about.
Yeah.
But if it means just inconveniencing the administration that's coming in.
And that's kind of what, like, when I hear about January 6th.
What's your feeling on it, by the way? I need to hear the unpopular words.
So, I want to hear the words. All right. So, off the top of my head, the strongest feelings I've ever had when it comes to it is I don't in any way think that somebody is going to influence other people to do something who is not a total idiot. You know, like when somebody wants to blame somebody for making somebody do something, the people who did it are living, breathing, functional brain thinking human beings. They are responsible, period. You know, like I could idolize somebody all day long, but the moment they say, hey, go destroy this building in my name, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to do that. That's a bad idea, because it would be my responsibility if I went and did it then. Having said that, I also don't like when somebody knows that something like that could happen and doesn't do what they can to steer someone the other way. So if I'm a big celebrity and someone's like, hey, these people really listen to you and they're really influenced by you and they're going to go and destroy this building and rip down all these things and make this day just a complete shit show. Could you calm them down? Again, my first reaction would be like, why is that my responsibility? They're a bunch of idiots. Like, it's they're doing it, not me. I didn't tell them to do it. Yeah, but could you at least just try to calm them down? I think there's something said in actually doing that and not rallying them up and making it worse. I also go back to this whole, what exactly did they do? You know, if you're saying if an insurrection is you caused a president valuable time or something that they could have done in their presidency, or you made it impossible for them to do something that you knew was important to their candidacy. Did these people do any of that? Or was it one day of just a shit show and then we all went on with our lives?
All right, so let me tell you what it really was, because I'm going to just take the neutral observer standpoint here. And this is going to be truth because all those other people are fucking liars and they're not going to say this. And we're going to use you as the example.
Okay.
Okay? Because it'll hit home. Like when you're talking about Target or government or some big entity, it feels like there's a different level of standard than if it were your home and what you would do. Mm-hmm. So we do a show that pisses people off, and there's a group of 100 people that come to your house and show that they are dissatisfied with the things that you said on this program. So you got this group, picture your street, picture your driveway, 100 people out there with signs saying, Kelin shit, right?
Great.
And so I come by and I set up some barricades that make sure that they stay on the street. It's their right to be able to show their displeasure with Kelin. Kellin's in her house and she's like, really? That's cool if they stay out there on the driveway, but if they start destroying shit or they come inside, whatever. But now the barricade guy is like, this would look really bad on
Come
Kelin.
on in.
This would look really bad on Kelin. Let me prop this little barricade down. And I know that this group, once the barricade is down, is going to make their way onto Kellin's porch. And then if I go to the door and kind of like nudge it and open it up, and they go inside and start like wrecking shit, like I know they're going to do that. The group over is pissed off. If the barricade would stay up and the door wouldn't have been nudged, they would have just stayed on the street and they would have been benign annoyances. But because I invited them inside, now I get to take pictures.
Maybe now I'm going to give them bottled water.
I'm going to take pictures of them destroying your TV, right?
Yeah.
Now, we got rid of them super quick, and they were just a bunch of randos that were looking for an opportunity to, like, whatever. Had they not been let through the barriers, they wouldn't have done anything. Had they not gotten through nudged the door open, they wouldn't have got through the door. But since they did, they decided to sit in your lazy boy and turn on the vibrating seat and the heated seat, and now you got a perfect picture of somebody coming into something that's sacred and defacing your lazy boy chair. Now you're pissed off about it because now who are you mad at? Me for hitting the barricade and propping up at the door? Are you pissed at them because they were pissed off?
Both.
You're pissed off.
I'm both.
But those pissed off people who were just normies would have just stayed outside the barricade and they would just had their signs, and maybe there would have been some, people breaking the rules or towing the line a little bit. But for the most part, had the rest of that not happened,
Yeah.
if they were, I feel that they were ushered into bad circumstances and they used their displeasure of what was happening as pawns about what we wanted to really happen to show that Donald Trump was a, freaking maniac. And all I had to do was nudge a door. Like, that's all I really had to do. And, in that situation, if it were your home, you would understand, right, that the real idiot would have been me, who urging on the crowd to do something they wouldn't otherwise would have done.
How open to the public was this building on a regular basis?
There's tours. You
Yeah.
got to go through security and whatever, but this is a day that was not a tour day. This was like lockdown. This was a day where you're not going in there because legislative procedure was happening. And so the public is kept away from that. So the barricades were up. So what makes me think that there were urgings into the building? Did you see any of the footage, by the way?
Very little.
Okay.
Very little. And I keep hearing bits and pieces of information. Like, I've heard a lot that people were welcomed in, invited in, given bottles of water. Yeah.
Oh, there was definitely
sounds-
political people that wanted to make sure that a stunt happened. And they made it, very subtly, very probable that would happen.
Yeah.
So if, let's just say the government was like, no, we know that these people are going to come in, they're going to be upset. Let's send out the National Guard and put up barricades and not let people in. That would have been one thing because it would have been kept at bay. And then anything that happened outside the barricades, if they would have rushed the National Guard and whatever, like, okay, well, those are insurrectionists. Mm-hmm. But if you let people go by the barrier and you open the door so that they can get in, like, that wasn't insurrection. That was an invitation.
And see, and that's the thing that do we know for a fact, were they let in or did they push in?
I saw closed circuit TV of a door being open and a group of people being allowed directly in, invited in. I saw other CCTV of people pushing on barricades and forcing their way in. So both of them happened. Just like in any protest, you're going to have both types of people. You're going to have both types of insiders, people who are there just to make problems happen. And so you bring up, whether or not, there were FBI agents in the crowd. And their goal, usually FBI, like you'd want that to happen, where they're making sure that there aren't any, terrorists in the crowd that are, you're talking to people and find out what they're really going to do and try to like diffuse those and make sure something bad doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But the theory and the accusation is that those are the people that incited people to do something. So in the city of Youngstown down here, we had a BLM riot or protest down here. There were 4 people that came from out of state, and they had backpacks and they brought out weaponry. 99% of the people that came here just wanted to walk the street and make their voices heard. And there were people from the outside that came in that said, we're going to cause some shit. Mm-hmm. And if it weren't for a local activist here that diffused that situation and convinced that person not to cause some shit, there would have been some shit in Youngstown. So it only takes one to get the rest of the people that are already pissed off to do something they wouldn't otherwise do. So if you had insiders that were the FBI or insiders that were anybody else, you could very easily got pissed off people to do something they wouldn't otherwise do. So the most believable thing is that politics made it so that it was super likely to happen. There were instigators that took infuriated people and made them more likely to do something even more than when they would. And then there's going to be people in the crowd that did stupid shit that probably should have ended up in jail. And all 3 of them were mixed in that crowd. And so it's not like everybody was innocent and it's not like everybody was guilty. It's everything in between.
Yeah, because I think anytime somebody talks about this and they talk about the insurrection that happened, it is always tied to Trump led an insurrection.
Yeah.
Trump did this. Trump wanted this to happen. And that is where I'm just like...
Well, I would have to hear a quote that really even pushed that, right?
Yeah.
Go to the Capitol and break... I'd have to hear that.
Yes. And that's why when you're like, well, was this an insurrection? It feels like... And I know coming from you, it's not, but anyone else, it feels like a loaded question.
Yeah.
What they're really asking is, do you think Trump did this or not? Do you think he's guilty of this or not? And again, I'm like, I could appreciate wanting him to do whatever he can to diffuse a tense situation.
Well, would you hold the whole? Would you hold the people guarding the door that let people in? Would you hold that person to the same standard that they should do everything in their power to keep people out of that door instead of letting them in?
Yeah,
it's got to be universal, right?
Yeah,
Would
and
you
like
keep
I said, I wouldn't even say it's Trump's responsibility if he's like, I didn't tell anyone to come here. I didn't tell anyone to do this. I am not part of this in any way, shape, or form. Then no, he shouldn't even have to make a statement, period. I just mean I can appreciate him maybe saying, let's keep this peaceful. Let's not trying to help. But to say Trump led an insurrection and blah, blah, blah.
That's bullshit. It's overplayed.
Yeah.
And that's what I say, like, everybody's an idiot in this scenario. Like, there's no person that shouldn't take some kind of ridicule on this. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to your house. I'm the guy at the door. I'm the one that nudged the door open. Mm-hmm. You know that there's angry people out there. You know, if you give them easy access to your house, or are you mad at me?
Yeah.
Because I should have done what? I should have made it so that it was less likely that people came in your house, not more likely that they came in your house. Now, what about you? What if I looked at you and say, well, you said things that pissed people off, right? It's your fault that you made people mad enough that they'd want to come in your house. Is it your fault? Should you conduct yourself in a way that made people not want to come in your house?
To that, I'm like, I don't want people to be so dumb that they go and get
that shouldn't be an option.
Over this.
Shouldn't be an option. People should be able to hear things that they don't like,
right?
And not feel like they need to come in your house and destroy your freaking property.
Exactly. You cannot like something all day long. You cannot like a person. You cannot like a policy. You cannot like what somebody said. But
there's
we
a line.
Have all learned from childhood that whatever they say. Your actions are your actions and your responsibilities regardless of what somebody said.
So those people that came through the barrier it's on them, because they, even if I had no barriers up whatsoever, if I came up to you and said, hey, you know what? You're mad at Kelin for the unpopular things that she says on this show. Stay on the street, use your signs. I respect your ability to, to protest in this way. Just stay here. Those are the rules. A person comes on your lawn, they're breaking the rules. It's on freaking them. If I make it easier for them to break the rules and I infuriate them so that they break the rules, it's still on them. It's the person that broke the rules' fault, not the instigators and not you saying the thing that they didn't like.
Yep. Yeah, and where does it end? Okay, so you didn't like what I said. You came to my house. You protested. You wanted to cause this scene. You wanted to get in, whatever. Okay. I don't like that you did that. So when you go home, now here comes me and my group, and we're protesting your house, and we're causing a scene. And it's like, no, because you don't do that over something somebody said. You are responsible for what you do.
100%.